Hi, I'm Brittany Pacheco,
And I'm Amber Churchwell.
and we are the Watchers in the Basement. Welcome back to our channel, or welcome if you are new. Consider subscribing by clicking this button down below. That way you can join the Watchers in the Basement extended family. We are currently on the road to 500 subscribers, and it would mean a lot if you joined us on that journey. Today, we are talking about not one, not two, but three episodes of the latest from the final season of The Handmaid's Tale, which is on Hulu. It might be a long pod today, y'all. So before we get started, go ahead, go grab a snack, grab a glass of wine, because good Lord, some things that happened in these last three episodes, kind of wild. I'm not going to lie. I was very surprised by a few of the events that occurred, but we're going to first hear from Amber and her overall thoughts on the latest three episodes of The Handmaid's Tale. Amber, what do you think is going on? Or how are you liking the last three episodes?
I thought out of the three, I think the most recent one, I think 8 was the best. I did see some people saying that it was a little bit slow paced, but I thought it was great. I think how they showed everything, the cinematography was amazing. Like I thought it was impactful and wonderful. The other episodes, I didn't care for as much, but they were important because it was obviously leading up to this one. So I thought it was really good. I thought they're definitely better than how the series started off, the episodes this season. So I thought it was neat, but definitely I'm very, very excited for this week's.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree more. I felt like, I think it was episode 6, which we'll jump into shortly. I felt like that was just a little lacking in some areas. That for me was kind of slow paced. Then the second episode picked up and it was like, oh Jesus Christ, like what is happening here?
Yeah.
Like, oh, shit's about to get real. And then yes, the latest episode 8, entitled Exodus, was amazing. So I am gearing up for the penultimate and the series finale, if you will, which we will be covering in the next couple of weeks, of course. So once again, thanks for everyone who has joined us on this Handmaid's Tale journey. Praise be. Amber, let's go ahead and discuss season 6, episode 6, the episode entitled Surprise. And it starts where we last left off with episode 5, where June and Moira, who are disguised as Marthas, they went to Jezebel's to try to kind of get some intel ahead of time before the big Mayday plan operation is a go. But they do encounter some issues. They end up running into Commander Lawrence, who in the past has obviously helped June, but they're kind of at odds right now. So this episode picks up exactly where we left off, where Lawrence is taking June and Moira to his home because June has basically talked about, hey, Lawrence, how would you like to be the most powerful commander in all of Boston? And that, of course, appeals to Lawrence greatly. Amber, walk us through what happened with Commander Lawrence taking the two to his home before they are to go back to the Canadian border.
Well, he brings them back there, and there was a silly little scene when he had to deal with Naomi, of course. But I don't know. It's always just so funny for me watching him try to handle her and just deal with her because he just seems always 1,000% just over it every time he's around her, and I don't blame him. But anyway, he gets June and Moira to his house, and they kind of realize like, oh shoot, the letters from the Jezebels are still in that safe. Let's go get we have to get that out. And so she's making the plans to contact Nick to get that, and she would stay behind to confer with Nick and make sure that they can get those out. and he will get her and the letters out. So that was the initial plan, and Moira went with Lawrence, and he took her back to Mayday. So great, wonderful. Moira's out, and we do get them talking to her, calling Nick and contacting him, and he does plan on getting there, and he successfully does, but he runs into a bit of a surprise at Jezebel's. At Jezebel's, he runs into Janine and Commander Bell. And Commander Bell's like, oh, so you do come to Jezebel's. I thought your father-in-law wasn't going to allow that. You know, like, so it's he got caught. And that is kind of throws a wrench in the plan. And Janine, luckily, you know, our girls got his back, and she was able to kind of say like, oh no, he's not with me. He always goes to like, it's, I thought it was very clever how she's like, he goes after some girl named April or May or something, because June is also a month like those names are. So that was very silly and clever.
It was.
And as is, you know, the Janine special. And he does get home, and but when he pulls up with June in the car with the letters safely in hand, there's a guest in his home, if you would like to talk about that.
Yeah, so no, great like summary of just kind of hitting all those high points. There's some other things to discuss, which we will definitely get into.
Of course.
And that is, first and foremost, we got to talk about Commander Wharton, who is Nick's father-in-law, who is a high commander. And he was supposed to be on his way to Washington, D.C. with his daughter, Rose, who is very much pregnant at this point. But instead, he is at Nick's home, waiting for Nick, presumably. And that really puts a wrench in the whole plan, because Nick had persuaded June to stay with him for the night before going back to the border. And I do have to talk really quick about this kind of flashback montage, if you will, Amber, because this was a scene that had to have been shot during this season, because it wasn't like a whole scene that we got to see in the first season of The Handmaid's Tale, where Nick and June obviously are having relations. And this was like a very intimate moment, because Nick was having this flashback while simply just holding June's hand. He's recalling deep conversations that they had in bed, as you do, talking about just what life was like before Gilead, how Nick never did anything with his life, really. He was nobody. He's like, you wouldn't have even been able to, you know, you wouldn't have given me a second look, right? And she's like, oh no, I would have, and what have you. They talked about going on dates, you know, going to a restaurant that they once knew on the streets of Boston, and somehow talking about Paris. And he says, oh, I would love to take you to Paris. She's like, yeah, let's just go ahead and go to the airport now and just, you know, run away to Paris, like, as you do. Yeah. By the way, y'all, if you ever do get a chance to go to Paris, it's 100% worth it. Like, I love it. It's my favorite city outside of the United States. It's oh my God, I love Paris. Anyway, but that's kind of an important moment. But I do want to say how seamlessly it was pieced together into this episode, because I thought for a split second, I'm like, wait a minute, is this from season 1? Because it just flowed. It just felt like they just extracted it from season 1, when they would have relations and talk and this and that, what have you. And I'm like, this is very well done, in my personal opinion, to reference something from way back when. And it felt like it was something that we may have seen before, but it wasn't. This was a completely new scene for the season, which, by the way, y'all, I don't know if anyone really has paid attention to it. I know I brought it up with Amber, but Elisabeth Moss is very pregnant throughout this whole season, like very pregnant. You'll start noticing the shots of where it's like chest up or really significant on her face, or just scenes where her back is to the camera. And I'm like, she is very pregnant. Like, in this episode alone, for me personally, I'm like, she's dressed as a Martha. She looks more shapely than she usually does. No disrespect, of course. But I was like, oh, that makes all the sense in the world, because after I thought that. I looked it up, and sure enough, yes, Elisabeth had her first baby, or she was very pregnant while filming the final season and just gave birth, I think, earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken. Sidebar, tangent, sorry, back to the show. I was very impressed with that scene being seamlessly brought into this episode. But Commander Wharton obviously has words with Nick because he got a call, presumably from Belle, who we all hate. He's a dick, right? He basically tells Wharton that Nick was at Jezebel's, which is a very ungodly place for people to venture off to. And he's very concerned that Nick was seen there. He asks if he is having improper relations there, if he's betraying his daughter, who once again is pregnant. And Nick can't think of an excuse fast enough to give Wharton to explain why he's there, other than just saying something vague like, "Oh, I'm investigating a very sensitive operation," or something along those lines, right? But it wasn't good enough. And Wharton, kind of the first time you really see like an outburst come out of him.
Oh, yeah. It was telling.
It was very telling, very much foreshadowing. And he basically Nick has to give up something in order for Wharton to back off, because Wharton also talked about the coincidental death of that one guardian, right? That Nick went to go visit and then died shortly thereafter. Yeah, it's not looking good. Exactly. Not looking good for our boy Nick over here, right? So what happens? Nick confesses. Yeah, but we don't see that just yet. But we'll talk about that in a moment. Amber, let's talk about how Nick did instruct June to go just a few houses down in New Bethlehem to go see Serena, because she would for sure help June.
Yeah, I mean, I was a little unsure if she would actually be so helpful for June, but she ended up being really encouraging of it. But also, like, I understand June coming from a place of wariness, because I mean, the last time she saw her, she pushed her off of a train. So I mean, I get it. I understand. I was the exact same way. I'm like, how are we sure you're not gonna do like a sticky phone call just once you have her secured in a secured location? Like, it just seemed a little nerve-wracking, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I definitely think it was very interesting, and I think the disagreements and arguments that they had touched on a lot of points, but I think they've kind of been building towards that for a long time. So they finally kind of got to let it all out.
Yeah.
Their points of things. I mean, I still don't really, obviously, nobody really agrees with Serena, because she's still enabling it. And June has a very good point. Like, you're marrying another Fred. Like,
you're subjugating yourself to a powerful man.
Yeah, and I like, good for you for June for saying it, but Serena was just she was convinced that Wharton was not going to be like that because of the things that he said, but he hasn't proved anything. He just says those things to try and get you. And once you already said yes to the wedding proposal, so.
I like in that moment, I really do like the scenes between Serena and June, just because they are very frenemy-like, and how Serena says, "I had to pay for your love affair," and she's kind of referencing her time in prison in Canada, and June's like, "Okay, but you started that. Like, you threw us into it together, and you have the audacity to say to me you had to pay for my love affair. Like, fuck you, you know."
Yeah,
it's so funny, but these comments that Serena makes about, oh, the two of us keep getting thrown back together, and she just thinks that this is God's will, and that's what it's supposed to be, and she goes, like, I know I was awful once. And it's like, okay, that is like the most understatement of the year.
Yeah.
And in Serena's mind, she's been trying to make amends with June, and the amends that she's made is enough, and she wants June to forgive her. And June simply is like, I can't forgive you. You don't think I wish I could? If I could, I'd finally get rid of you. And it's like, oh
Yeah.
damn. Oh damn. But I
Because I think
go ahead.
I think Serena needed to hear that, because up to this point she still thinks that, oh, no matter how bad I have been, I can always do better. But June is there to show her some things that you do cannot be forgiven. Like, starting a totalitarian government that subjugates women.
Yeah.
Like, that can't be forgiven.
No,
And
and just like when June or when Serena is trying to justify Gabriel and saying, "Oh, he's nothing like Fred," and June's like, "Yeah, was Fred like Fred in the beginning?"
yeah, again, it needed to
Absolutely
be said.
died. It's so
I,
great.
God, I'm telling you, that conversation was golden and needed to happen. The whole disagreement, it
It
definitely needed
really
to
did.
happen. We've been building up to it. They
Oh
finally
yeah,
laid it all out.
yeah. And ultimately, Serena's like, "What do you want from me?" And June says, "I just need a bed. I need a shower and a bed, and that's it." You know.
I don't know why, but that part actually made me laugh really hard. Just being like, I just need a bed. Leave me alone.
It's like, I'm cranky. I've been walking in the rain. I'm pregnant, but I'm not supposed to talk about it because I'm an actress. Anyway, that's beside the point. But yeah, that conversation was necessary. I thought it was a great conversation, a great scene between these two women that, you know, you want to at times believe that maybe Serena will turn that corner and finally come to terms with all the bullshit that she started, and it's not working, right? And no matter what way you spin it, this whole new Bethlehem, the new Bethlehem thing, or the fertility center thing, and like, none of it's going to work. Like, just, you have to understand, this is Gilead. This is the place that you helped create, and they're
Yeah.
not going to let go of that power. They're not going to ever change, no matter
Which I
no matter
think
what.
she needed to hear that it's not going to work from June. And then also later on, I don't think it was in this episode, I think it was the next one, where she's talking to the wives and
Oh yes,
they
yes,
don't
yes, yes.
really agree with it either. I think that cemented what June was saying for her.
Yeah.
I think like that kind of made her realize, like, ah, shit, June's right. But
Mhm.
still, even then, she's not going to really do anything about it, because I
No.
think she's still severely disillusioned. But
Yeah.
I definitely think that she needed to hear from June, and then she needed the wives to
Yeah.
cement that idea.
Yeah. Well, talk about cementing a thought. You talked briefly about how Janine was in Jezebel's and whatnot. How well, I don't remember if you said it or not, but Lydia pays a visit to Janine, right?
Oh yeah,
Because Janine is Lydia's special girl, right? Always has a soft spot for Janine and others. And Lydia is also seeking forgiveness, much like Serena is with June. And Lydia brings like these homemade cookies and like good news for Janine, saying, you don't have to be in this place anymore. You're going to be working in the fertility center in New Bethlehem, which is to help like retired handmaids, I guess. And Janine's just not buying it. She's not interested in it because there is no such thing as a free woman in Gilead.
no,
She's like, there's no way out. And Lydia responds to that comment by slapping Janine in the face, right? Lydia quickly reverted back to her true self once she became an aunt in Gilead. No matter how much she prayed, when Janine and Esther, who by the way, we still have no information about, that poor girl was raped by the commander, is pregnant with his child. It's been months now. Where is she? Where is Esther? How is she
yeah.
doing? What is happening with her?
I
Okay.
feel like they're missing an opportunity if they don't address that at all before the
Yeah.
series ends. I would
Yeah.
be. I feel like a lot of people, us included, would be furious not to find out what happened.
Thank you.
With her.
There's 2 episodes left. Like, if we don't address it at any given point, I'm like, why? Like, why? Like, you had to, like, tie that bow and wrap up that storyline. Like, just say, oh, she either, I mean, the girl was suicidal. She was willing to take Janine out at the same time, too, for God's sakes. Not, I don't wish that for Esther and that of her child, but, like, I get it. I wouldn't be entirely surprised. But Janine, going back to Janine and Lydia, Janine says the only way that she'll forgive Lydia is to reunite her with her daughter. She said, "You stole my child." And she keeps reiterating that. And Lydia just won't give in and tells her it's impossible. Janine's like, "Get the fuck out." And she trashes the dressing room after she kicks out Lydia. I just thought that was a really interesting scene of how these 2 sets of women are dealing with the outcomes of their actions, and the ones that are in the wrong are asking for forgiveness. And it's like, no, like, it's not that simple. It's absolutely not that simple. It's never going to be that simple. And I think for Janine to ask of the impossible is it's tough, because I think she has to know that she will never be reunited with Charlotte, her daughter, right? Who we know as Angela with now the Lawrences. But I I do like how she trashes the dressing room and screams, and then she just, like, walks away out of the dressing room to go back to do what she was doing, right, with Commanders. And it's like, yep, you got to put on your big girl panties and get right back to work. You gotta keep going. And I'm like, I understand.
Yeah.
Poor Janine. All right, well, let's quickly wrap up this particular episode. We see that back at Serena's, June is about to sit down and have breakfast made by Serena, but there's a guest, and that guest is Rita. Rita tells June that she's been living in New Bethlehem because she has been reunited with her sister, and that Nick is, I believe she says that Nick is going to help get the family out, what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And June tells Rita that she is basically there for Mayday, not for Nick. And June says that she could use Rita's help, but Rita says she wants to focus on keeping her family safe. Surprisingly, June respects that decision. She says, "You deserve peace," which I thought was very lovely. I'm glad that June didn't, like, try to shove her agenda down Rita's throat to, get her to help with whatever plan they may have at that point. But then this is the turning point. Obviously, this is the catalyst for what I believe will kind of start making sense for the Testaments, which is the sequel book to The Handmaid's Tale, and which will be a series as well. Nick arrives, Amber, and he's almost like in this manic kind of state where he's telling June to forget about Mayday. Somehow he's got papers overnight.
Our boy is stressed.
He is stressed. Yeah, exactly. Somehow he got overnight papers, false documents to leave and go to Paris, and he wants her to go with him, right? And he's just like I'm no good to Rose, who's bearing my child. Like, let's just get out of here. My question to you, Amber: do you think June was actually going to agree to leave with him?
No.
Tell
because
us
of
your reasons.
Hannah and Nicole. No.
Well, he did try to persuade her and say that Holly, both, the baby and then the grandmother, Holly, could come with them and what have you. Doesn't make any mention of Luke, of course, because that would be just hella awkward. But yeah, he does not make mention of Hannah either. But it almost seemed like June looked up at him at one point and she's just like in awe, like, oh my God, this man is like offering the thing that I wanted to do with him most. And we could run away and we could, live together in harmony and, whatever. I mean, he's like, yeah, he's like, you'll do it. And she's like, you're crazy. He goes, I know I'm crazy. And they kiss and whatever. Well, they're interrupted. They're interrupted by a knock on the door. Amber, tell us what happened.
So the door, which, they, first and foremost, the when they hear that Serena has them hide in a closet, or it appears like a, just a regular little shoe closet kind of thing, and off to the side, and who's at the door? It is Commander Wharton. Honestly, with how close they appear together, do you think they carpooled? Like, part of me kind of thinks they carpooled. But
I mean, honestly, all those houses are really close proximity. I mean, they're just like basically condos that are, like San Francisco.
But like, I feel like Wharton would have had to have seen Nick. So after like, oh, we got all of this like conversation, you gave me all of this information, and oh, why is he going into my fiance's house? I mean, man had to have seen him. It's so, like you said, they're so nearby.
Yeah.
They had to have seen it. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, that's Nick's future mother-in-law. I mean, he can't just come in and be like, hey, Mom, what's going on? Are you making breakfast? Like, I too like breakfast.
Hey, Mom. No, I don't know. That was my first thought, but like, fake carpool. Unless like, part of me does think maybe, because we don't know the full extent of how much information Nick gave. So if he gave information that about obviously the thing, what if he said that, hey, June is here, and that is actually how he got all of those papers and all of that information and stuff like that was through Wharton. And they probably did carpool. Like, hey, you can have a moment to go talk to your lady, convince her to go and stuff like that, and then I'll show up, kind of thing like that. So that hopefully you and your lady will be out, and June will be out of here, so that you won't hear me talk about, what we found out. Like, maybe that was the plan. I don't know, because we again don't know how much information was given from Nick. But anyway, what happens is Wharton tells Serena, oh, we got amazing news. We heard that I have successfully shut down all of the Jezebel locations because we found out that Mayday was planning this attack to take things like that. He poses it as like, oh, blessed be, we found out about this before anything could happen.
God listens and watches everything.
Yeah, and he makes it so that we're gonna have to finally deal with. I finally get to close this horrible establishment, and things like that. And as this is happening, Nick and June are in the closet, like 5 feet away, and they can hear everything. And as he is explaining all of this, June is just staring into Nick's soul, and Nick he's guilty. Of course, he's the one who gave the information, and that's how this episode ends, with us and June realizing that he gave out this information. He ruined it, just so because he got caught. But yeah, that's how we end the episode.
Talk about a horrifying betrayal. Like, June looks like she's been punched in the gut, and it explains why he wanted to quickly exit New Bethlehem to go on a plane to Paris as quickly as possible. And it leaves you with the question of, how is June going to look at Nick now? Because the likelihood of the operation failing is obviously very high, but then also what would happen to the girls at Jezebel's, right? I mean, it's not like they decided they wanted to pursue this life, right? I mean, it's the commanders who decide everything. And it's the commanders who go to this establishment to do things with these women. And it's very ungodly, of course, given how pious all these men seem to portray themselves. And it just leaves you with a lot of questions, but mainly of how June views Nick from here on out. And is Nick going to be of any help after that point?
Will they
And
even want his help?
right, exactly. So, but that is episode 6, entitled Surprise, which I think is very appropriately named. That was a hell of a surprise of an ending. And Amber, let's just jump right into episode 7, entitled Shattered, equally appropriately titled. Because it's shattered, and I think that word is used in more ways than one. Shattered in the sense of June's emotions towards Nick, right? She, without a doubt, we all know, loves Nick. She's been in love with Nick, and she is completely shattered by his betrayal. But then shattered because we then see at the very beginning of this episode what happened to the girls at Jezebel's. All the girls, with the exception of Janine, who witnessed the
Yeah.
massacre.
Part
And
of me, some teeny tiny little shred of me was hoping, not expecting, because it's Gilead and I know what to expect with Gilead, but part of me was hoping, oh, they'll just be moved to this new red center thing that they were doing. But then I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. Like, I know that that is me being foolish.
yeah. Yeah, it was sad because you still see June and Nick inside the closet, which is kind of funny to say, but she's staring into his soul, and we're seeing these cutaway shots of what's happening inside Jezebel's. You see the Guardians come in, they push all these girls into like the showers or the bath area of Jezebel's, and then I mean they're going to execute them. There's no question. And before they do start shooting at the girls, the one Guardian says to the other Guardian, "Hey, not her," meaning Janine, and pulls her out of the group to then basically save her at the behest, we later come to find out, of Commander Bell. Bell is the one who has been having relations with Janine at Jezebel's.
Psycho.
He and just disgusting. Anyway, but Janine witnessed the massacre of her girls, her friends, the letters that she gave to June and Moira to get across the border, to the families if they could, are going to be the last things these women will have ever expressed because they're gone. And she was forced to watch them die. And I couldn't imagine like the type of trauma that she would experience having witnessed all that. But yeah, she at least is
Her girl's
saved.
been suffering since day one, though. I mean, this is just another addition to it. And then the horrible things that happened to her at Bell's.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah. So we will later find out what happens to Janine with Commander Bell. Or just major spoiler at this point, if you guys haven't noticed it. He will make her his handmaid. Lord, I was hoping she'd never have to wear that red dress again, but here we go. The horrors of just
I don't think they're doing any of the handmaid ceremonies. I think it's literally just as a way to keep her there, as like a Gilead approved way to keep her there. He doesn't care if there's a baby out of it. He's just going to. He's obsessed with her, and that's his way of having 100% 24/7 access to her.
Oh yeah, yeah. The abuse is real, y'all. Yeah. It's very real. But the horrors at Jezebel's makes Nick's decision hit even harder because Nick and June, like, the tension is you could cut it with a knife at this point, right? And
I'm sure she wants to cut him with a knife.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Nick tells June that he never said the girls had anything to do with it, but that he never thought that his father-in-law would follow through in the sense of murdering all of those women.
Yeah.
Very telling for something in the future, I would say. But
he does.
when June, of course, asks about the girls, Nick confirms her worst fears and says, "I didn't think he would do it," referring to Wharton. He seems genuinely shocked, maybe, But
I think he was shocked at the severity of it.
Yeah.
Because I think maybe he's kind of talked about it. I think he just didn't. He assumed it wasn't going to affect the girls, which, bro, look around you. How did you not? How? I don't know. I think he was just more thrown because he expected something a bit gentler, but.
Well, but also keep in mind, like, Nick has been around commanders for a long time. He himself is now a commander, and he sees how, like, callous these commanders can be. And then you have those like Wharton, who preaches virtue, but still thinks it's godly and okay to slaughter women. Make it make sense, y'all.
They're heathens.
Well, damn it. I'm proud of it.
Yeah. The thing is that Wharton seems to be very devout to the Gilead religious philosophy, which the death of sinners is not going to impact them the same way the death of any other good, godly person of Gilead would. So, because they honestly see anyone that they deem as sinners as less than human. So it's more, to them, it's more like cattle than anything. So.
Yeah. Well, obviously the results of Nick's betrayal end with June telling him, take me back to the border. I mean, she doesn't even make it to the actual border before telling him to stop the car so she can get out, and tries to get as much distance from him as possible. And obviously he's not going to let her go that easily. Everything's filled with just venom and bitterness on both sides, because the hard truth of the matter that Nick says to her is, you never cared what I did unless it helped you.
True.
And it's like,
he's not wrong.
Not wrong. Like, facts, right? And she has to face the fact that he is a commander, right? June, who has probably just viewed Nick through rose-colored glasses and what have you, is starting to peel back those glasses. And she accuses him of only wanting to save himself. And he doesn't deny it. He does end up saying, we all want to save ourselves. We're fucking human. It's what we do. And June's just like, how dare you? Just saying how he says that, and saying he is no different from the other commanders. And again, he agrees before basically saying that June loves him. So what does that make her? Is she complicit?
Do you think
either way,
June's
it's
rose-colored glasses shattered?
Shattered. There we go. Yes. Tying in the title. We love that. Well, June will make it back to Mayday headquarters, where she runs into Luke. Luke's like, hey, we're trying to figure out where things went sideways, like who leaked the information. She's like, it was Nick. Yeah, it was Nick. And Luke's like, well, how did Nick know? And just the look on her face. I mean, great acting. As much as I really don't like having the camera on her face a lot of the time, great facial reaction, not saying a word, her letting her reaction on her face just tell Luke everything he needed to know. That she told Nick because she thought she could trust him and thought he could help. And then Luke surprised the hell out of me by calling her out on her shit. Amber, tell us what Luke ended up saying. Go ahead.
Honestly, it's kind of what I've been wanting from Luke.
Yes.
Forever. Like, man, just stand up for yourself. Fight for her. Fight. Like, obviously, Nick has gone through literal hell and high water for June multiple times, and that's not saying that he's a good person, because obviously he's not. He's still a commander. But, like, and yes, Luke has been there for her, but he still also struggled when she came back with dealing with her trauma. And that always bothered me because it's like, she went through this trauma, not you. You could be a little bit more understanding.
Yeah.
So I think finally for him to be like, hey, you fucked up. And like, you need to acknowledge that. Like, you can't just because it's you doesn't mean that you are exempt from these problems happening. And now all of these people's hard work and the lives that we could have saved and the lives lost are because of you and your misjudgment. And I think it was definitely needed. I needed him to grow that spine. And I am not surprised. I mean, I'm a little surprised that it took this long, if I'm honest, but I'm glad that he gave it to her. He just went at her, and I'm so glad about it. I think, kind of kicking her when she's down, but
but for his sake,
think she, after hearing all of the things that Nick was saying and how he was trying to excuse it, he was trying to get past this and stuff like that, I think that was really the nail in the coffin for her, hearing how Luke was going to react to that. And part of me, like, the part of me who just kind of doesn't really like the drama of it all was just kind of like, you couldn't have had this conversation like in another room? Did you have to have it in front of literally all the rest of Mayday?
Yes, because, kick them while they're down. I mean, she fucked up. She told Nick. Nick's the commander. You can't trust him. Luke's like, you've been pining for him ever since you got back. And she's just like, I don't know what to do. He's like, how about not being in love with a fucking Nazi? And I'm like,
just like what her mom said.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like what her mom said. And again, I think when it came to her mom saying it, she was just more of like, kind of like that stubborn teenager where like, I don't listen to my mom. You don't love him like I do. Like,
but then you hear it from your husband, who knows that you're in love with some other man that you've had a child with, completely different circumstances. We get it. But it was great. It was such a needed scene between the two of them because I was getting really fed up with both of them and just how they're acting. And I'm like, I needed it for them to come to blows. I needed some sort of moment, like a catalyst moment for them to like finally go their separate ways and what have you. And I'm like, oh, this is that moment. Like, this is the moment. Yeah. Short-lived. It's short fucking lived. God damn.
The show's ending, babe. They can't.
No, and I understand that. I also know exactly what happens in the Testaments. I also like, this isn't the last time we're going to see these characters, obviously. But I was just like, yes, finally. I'm going to pause right here because I'm going to let people in the live chat or those watching the replay. Are you shipping Luke and June, or are you shipping for June and Nick, given all, recent circumstances, of course? But are y'all just tired of Luke and June like I am? Or am I just crazy? Like, just leave a comment down below. Let me know.
Personally, I'm tired of June.
Okay,
that's these men's lives up.
Also fair. Very accurate and fair. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, because I mean, Luke can go on and do his own Mayday thing and hopefully get Hannah back.
Yeah.
Nick can just be a commander and I guess forget all about Nicole and deal with this baby that him and Rose are having. Like, I'm a little frustrated that this keeps going back and forth. It's literally Gilead and Canada / Mayday is basically just a ping pong table. Yeah. And June is the ball and just bouncing back and forth everywhere, like, and causing mayhem as she goes. And I'm a little frustrated. I'm just frustrated with her. Honestly, like, part of me, and my joking side is like, throuple.
God.
That's not ever gonna happen.
You're funny. Well, at least Moira has her best friends back again. Like, she does try to make it seem like she's very compassionate and understanding, but June still blames herself. Moira reiterates, like, look, he helped you survive. Like, if a commander had done that for me when I was at Jezebel's, I probably would have fallen in love with him too. Like, and then they start going off about like who's hot. Let's talk about Rihanna.
That was
Like,
funny. No one's
that was
hotter
funny
than
because
Rihanna.
they're talking about like Nick. Like, Nick's hot. It's like, okay, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I think he's good looking, but it's like, yeah, like Rihanna hot. And it's like, what are you talking about? No one's hotter than Rihanna. And it's just it was just really
It was
funny.
very funny, especially because like Moira, like I don't know, it just cracked me up because you could kind of tell that Moira was going to allow it just from like how Nick came in guns blazing, saving them, and just killed guards like right then and there. Like,
Yeah.
get your husband, get your bestie, let's get in the car, let's go, babe. Like, it was just, you could tell from her reaction of, that's Nick.
Yeah.
Oh. Like, you could tell that Moira was going to be a little bit more like that. So I wasn't surprised about it, but the conversation was definitely it was lighthearted, and I felt like it was needed.
Yeah. Well, things are still not looking good for Nick. We see him back at Gilead. He is, just really down in the dumps. He gets a visit from Rita that I forgot my train of thought.
She's kind of trying to confirm that he's going to, or the timeline of when he's going to be able to help her and her family get out.
Right. He kind of tells her too, like, June was stupid for trusting him, and that kind of is foreshadowing what the conversation between Rita and Nick will turn into, because Rita's like, we were friends. He's like, no, we were never friends. He's like, they were terrified of each other. In a split second, they would have turned on one another just to survive. And it kind of miffs Rita. She's like, well, don't you want to be a man who does the right thing? And Nick kind of like finally lays it down for her to basically say that the only person that you can count on is yourself. And I was hoping, of course, it wouldn't come down to this for Nick, but Rita also has, pulled the curtains back, and she sees that Nick's not going to be able to keep his promise in helping her and her family. No. And she's stuck. She is stuck in Gilead once again.
I genuinely think that now that he's realized, like, okay, I fucked things up with June. This is, like, she's never going to forgive me. This is it. So that was the only thing that, honestly, let's be real. The only reason he was doing anything against Gilead ever was for June. He never went and did that on his own. Nope. He never did. And it was all because of June. So now that he doesn't have that tie to Mayday or reason to go against Gilead's been so good to him. So I think now he's kind of realized, well, I'm never going to get that. And this is what I am now. I'm going to be this. Yeah. And I think that unfortunately is going to make him like a full-on commander. And I have another thought that's kind of solidified that for me in Exodus. So we will get to that later.
But hold on to that thought. Yeah. All right, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk about Serena and the wives, because Serena has, she's fallen back into just being that very, like, I'm so important, look at me kind of thing. She's with the wives. State. Exactly. She's with the wives in what appears to be Gilead. And she has grown very accustomed to like being flattered by Wharton and getting to meet like all these dignitaries in New Bethlehem. But the wives are not so forthcoming with their flattery, right? They are pro-traditional Gilead. They don't want reforms. They don't want to have the handmaids be amongst them at a fertility center or anything like that. They're like, but the system works. It's fine. My husband says this. Another one. My husband says that. Another one. My husband. Well, Serena jumps in. Well, what do you think? And I was like, okay, yeah, I like the idea that she's challenging them, but for these wives to just be so willing to not have a voice and not speak up and just go and base their decisions on what their husbands say, it's like, damn, you guys are lazy. Like, you really don't want to have to think for yourself. You don't want to have to make
Yeah,
decisions. You want someone else to do it for you, whether it's
because they have
morally
it
right or
made.
wrong. Yeah.
They have security, they have money, they have anything that they could ever ask for, except rights.
Mhm.
But they don't need it because they are, like you said, lazy. They are not
Yeah.
going to. They've had it easy because like
Yeah.
Serena was the one who spoke up about trying to get them to be able to read, and she got her finger cut off.
Yes.
So all of them are like, cool, we'll just won't read, and they just don't. None of them have acted out because they don't feel the need to. They're like, why would I do that? My husband makes money. I have a house. I get a child out of this. Like,
Mhm.
why would I change? Why would I do this? And it's just that complacency is scary in a
Oh, yeah.
lot of situations. Even, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, there was
Yeah,
an
and more.
annoying car
No,
horn. I
you're
don't know
fine.
if anyone heard that.
You're fine. It's annoying for sure, and Serena will come back to New Bethlehem and have a conversation with her betrothed about how dismissive these wives were. They mocked my ideas. They think New
Mm-hmm.
Bethlehem is a folly. And when Warren asked which wives they were, I was like, wait a minute. What is he going to do to these wives? Like, what is he going to do to the commanders
The
who spoke
second I heard
against?
that too, same
Okay,
thing.
I wasn't crazy. I was like, okay,
No.
well, maybe he actually is going to make good on being supportive of her ideas and the reform and what have you. I was like, okay, well, maybe, but then what is he going to do to punish these wives? We already saw what he did to the girls of Jezebel's. Once again, it wasn't their decision, but yet they suffered. They're dead.
Yeah.
And these wives who openly spoke against Serena at her bridal shower, I might reiterate, making her feel some type of way, you would think, oh no, you made my betrothed feel some type of way. Now I'm going to punish you for what you said and what you did to her. Did you thought the same?
I did, but now that we're thinking about it a little harder, I wonder what if that was him kind of probing about how
Oh.
much do you like, okay, what did they say though? Because that also reflects what their husbands are talking about. Because we know that a lot of the commanders, that
Oh.
Warden doesn't go to Jezebel or didn't go to Jezebel.
Yes.
So all of those commanders talking about how they're going to just kill off Lawrence and stuff like that, and they don't like all the new reforms and stuff.
Yeah.
What if that was him kind of probing to be like, okay, what did she find out?
Hmm.
Because do we think Warden is involved with wanting to get Lawrence out of there?
Hmm.
Like,
Good
because
point.
I personally don't know. Because
I
were
don't know.
those commanders talking with Warden about this? Like, does Warden know that Lawrence is in danger? Does he?
Mm.
I don't. I actually, now that I'm thinking about it, really don't know. And but if he does or does know something about that, he could not maybe if he is using Serena like we think he is,
Yeah.
and he kind of wants her to, he has her so that he can kind of, yeah, I'll give you a little bit of wiggle room, but you're still on a leash.
Yeah.
I'm just giving you a little bit of an extension, but you have a leash still. I
Yeah.
like if that was his kind of goal, what if this is his way of being kind of just checking how far it got and how much?
No, it's smart. I just still think it's crazy how like there's no punishment, it seems, to the commanders who actively go there to, you know, live in a certain way, and yet it's the girl's problem. Fuck. I hate this world. I hate this
Oh well, yeah,
dystopian,
but that's
totalitarian,
because he's like hardcore religious, so of course he's
yeah.
not going to go.
Fuck that guy. Okay. So they think that, oh, well, one way we can get them to fall in line is to have a proper Gilead wedding. And it's going to go from this small little thing in New Bethlehem to like this big thing in Boston where literally everyone, all classes of Gilead people are invited. including handmaids, which not surprising necessarily, but in a way a little surprising. Serena, who has been openly talking about having the retired handmaids come and work at this fertility center that she wants to, create, she hesitates when Wharton mentions the women, the handmaids would be in attendance, and ultimately she agrees to show this is a show of unity or what have you. And I was just like, you hypocrite. You fucking hypocrite. They're not good enough to be at your wedding. Why?
I don't think it was that she didn't think they were good enough. I think it was more of I think, and this might just be me hopeful thinking, that after especially this big penultimate fight, disagreement she had with June, maybe, and what we do see in Exodus later on, was like, I think she's kind of started to realize, like, we treat these women absolutely horribly and stuff like that. So maybe it was a little bit of guilt. Like she didn't want to be in a church getting married with all of these symbolic vessels, beings of her guilt in attendance. That I say that might be wishful thinking, because I don't think Serena is going to end the story switching sides or anything like that. I never think she's going to do that completely. And but part of me does think maybe it's a little bit of guilt. That's why she doesn't want them there. I don't think it's that she thinks that her wedding's too good or they're not good enough. I think there's a little bit of guilt, and also handmaids are going to be a reminder of June. So I don't want that in my wedding. Like I don't think.
But I want June to forgive me.
I think it's very, very complicated, but I think it's
extremely
just guilt, her avoiding the feelings, avoiding the thought by not wanting them in her sight, out of sight, out of mind. And that's my personal thoughts for it, as to why she was a little unsure about the wives.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, not the wives, the handmaids.
Yeah, no, I can see that. Well, talking about the handmaids, let's talk about those who care for the handmaids, the aunts, specifically Aunt Lydia, and who I think is a new character, Aunt Phoebe. Aunt Phoebe, who is played by Darcy Carden. This character, though, is the moment, okay? And I'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of this episode, but
especially because of an Exodus too.
Yes.
Also, she's in The Good Place, and that's one of my favorite shows ever, and I absolutely love her. So the second I saw her, I'm like,
I love that. Well, Aunt Phoebe tells Lydia, praise be, Janine has been saved from the massacre that is Jezebel's, that at the request of Commander Bell, she is to be his new handmaid. Lydia is like overjoyed that first and foremost, Janine is alive. But Lydia also finds it curious that the Bells would want a handmaid when they're just newly married themselves. So she puts it into her own hands to deliver the red suitcase to the Bells' home. She asks Commander Bell if Janine's fitting in nicely, and he makes like a really snide comment about how, oh yes, we've been working on her all morning. Good. And when Lydia asks if she can see her, he says, oh no, she's not presentable. Oh, well, then I'll see her at the wedding. He's like, oh no, she's not ready for public viewing. Closes the door. And I mean, if that's not red flag for even Aunt Lydia, there's no hope, right? But she walks away at the second floor, where you do see Janine up against the really big windows, and it looks as if she's had quite the beating across her face, right? And someone takes her away, drags her away. I think it's the wife.
It looks like a wife. I think I saw that like green color.
Right. And so it looks like Lydia has finally seen the truth of what these girls actually endure, specifically Janine, her most special girl, right? So keeping on track with Lydia is going to be sent away by the request of Commander Lawrence. She's going to be sent away to go to DC, and it's all because Commander Lawrence paid a visit to Mayday headquarters. And I gotta stop right here and just point out something. Why is it so easy now for people to come in and out of Gilead when it was almost damn near impossible in the earlier seasons? Why is it so easy now?
Plot convenience. There was a very funny TikTok that I wanted to tell you about, and I just completely forgot. And it was so funny. It was June in the Gilead Canada border in season 1, and it's like this girl, and she has like a baby gate, and she's like army crawling it, like struggling and like doing little like spirals, tumbles to like get out of, and then just sneaking and struggling and trying to fight to get there. And then it's like, okay, now the same situation, but in season 6, and she just is walking straight there, like wandering, and then just,
I mean,
open the gate, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, like seriously,
and like going, hey, I don't know why, but it cracked me up.
Yeah, but seriously, it's like before it was just this big, huge struggle, and now it's like Commander Lawrence is coming to the Canadian side whenever he pleases, and June gets to get into Gilead whenever she pleases, and it's just like no one gets caught anymore. What the fuck? Like I don't understand.
It's just plot convenience. They realize, oh, if we're gonna have like this huge struggle between all of these characters and all of these different locations, we got to ease up on the border thing.
I suppose like everyone just sucks at their job apparently, right? Or they're equally in on the operation.
Damn Guardians.
I know, exactly. Well, okay, as I mentioned, Lawrence will pay a visit to Mayday, who is not quite happy to see him, right? But he comes to speak to June specifically, who seems to be packing to make her way back to Alaska, right? This is also kind of like after she's had this conversation with Luke about how, oh, maybe we shouldn't be together, but like maybe we should stay together because of Hannah, or is there more than that? Blah, blah, blah. It doesn't really matter. That's beside the point. I was really irritated by that scene. But Lawrence, because he has his own motive, right? The plan failed. The plan being Jezebel's, it failed. He is not going to be the most powerful commander left in Boston, right? He knows that the Warhawk commanders are still out there, and he wants them dead because that's what June promised. He spills information about how Serena is never going to quit. She's back where like she's on top. She's planning this big, huge wedding where she's going to invite everybody literally and include the handmaids. And that's for some reason triggers June. Like she knows the psyche and inner and outer works that is Serena Joy, and is like, okay, now we have an opportunity to activate a new plan, because she knows that Serena is just going to be so enamored with all the wedding details. She's going to be so like bridezilla, micromanaging, what have you, and things are going to go unnoticed. Like guardians are going to be called in from the borders, you know, to provide security for the wedding. And this is the opportunity for Mayday to strike, right? Yeah. June and Moira are going to go back undercover. They're going to don the red dress once again. And Luke is like all in on this because the bombs are still in place. Now, I don't know where the bombs are specifically. I don't remember if that was actually revealed where the bombs would be. Other than Jezebel?
No, other than Jezebel, they didn't really say. They just said in a few targeted areas, kind of things like that.
Ah, okay. So hopefully, I mean, this is going to work, right? It seems that Mayday is going to try to utilize any and all allies that they may have inside Gilead. Probably not Nick, but they do recruit Rita, who takes a package from Lawrence when he makes it back. And it appears to be some sort of powdery type substance. I was like, is this poison? Because Serena did ask Rita if she would make the wedding cake, which originally she declined. But now she will be making the cake, as we see samples of different flavors of cake in front of Serena for her to taste. She seems to enjoy one particular one, and it's like, oh, shit's gonna go down. Like shit's really about to go down. So, so like I said, Moira and June will enter once again into Gilead in the trunk of Commander Lawrence's car, who pays a visit to the Red Center to tell Lydia, hey, you're going to DC. Get on a plane. Go.
Yeah, let's get you out of here, lady. And who opens the trunk? But I don't. Phoebe. Phoebe was her name.
Yep.
Aunt Phoebe. So
Aunt Phoebe. Yes.
Yeah, and she is definitely in on it. So she's just like, come on, like let's go. And she gets the girls down into the Red Center.
Yeah, it's unclear because she's a new character to us, but it's unclear if she's always been an aunt or, in other words, she's always been an aunt who has since changed her allegiance, or she might have been someone planted to be an aunt, right? To just kind of be, ears on the inside or eyes on the inside for Mayday, right? It's just very unclear, but I do like what she says to the girls when she opens up the trunk. She says, let the revolutionary begin. And I was just like, oh, that's like so cool. I love that women are supporting women and in this rebellion effort. But the Moira and June are taken to the basement where Phoebe tells them that like pretty much everyone is in, like the handmaids are in, the Martha Network is in, like they just need June and Moira to do their thing, to lead and what have you. Obviously June is there to retrieve Janine because she did find out that Janine's back as a handmaid, not doing well. And Lydia is a little suspicious.
Be at the wedding to receive the item to execute the plan on her end.
Yes.
So they would need somebody to go and get her, and June's like, I'll do it.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But yes, they smuggled in what looks to be like pocket knives that they're going to pass out to all the handmaids, either at the wedding or at some point, right? They're all going to be like armed. And Lydia's a little hesitant about leaving for DC because it means that she's going to miss the wedding. Phoebe runs into her, makes up some kind of excuse, and it kind of like tips off Lydia in a way. She's becoming a little bit suspicious. But then the episode will end with Moira asking June to say something leaderish. And June begins with the Lord's Prayer, right? The Lord is my shepherd, blah, 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 blah. But adds a twist.
Psalm
and I do like
28, 23, I think, something like that.
She adds a twist at the very end of the prayer. And I do like this, and says, and please, dear God, give us the strength to murder those goddamn motherfuckers. To which Moira replies with, Amber, do you know?
Oh, fucking men.
Ah, fucking men. Loved it. I thought that was a great episode as well. Just to see the, like, everything unravel, it felt like, right? Again, this episode's entitled Shattered, and things are about to shatter for Gilead. Hopefully. Fingers crossed, everyone. Amber, let's talk about the last episode to be caught up for the season. That is episode 8, entitled Exodus. Again, another double meaning sort of title. I just love it. I love it.
I loved it so much.
It was a great episode. The pacing in the very beginning was a little slow for me. The jazz music kind of like was really throwing me off, and I think that was like meant to kind of scramble your mind. And a lot is happening, but there's a lot of this talk on the handmade dress. Like there's a paradox. The color is impossible to ignore, and it like erases the wearer's identity. Only the eyes are visible, meaning that like at a distance, June and Moira can easily blend in with the other handmaids because now they're like veiling themselves, it seems like. And
like some do, some don't.
Right. So, but yeah, there's like this big talk about the dress and how it we used to put a lot of emphasis
symbolism of it and the colors and everything like that, and how it's the color of blood, it's the color of
rage.
And I thought that I don't know, I loved the little monologue. I thought it was very interesting. in the
Yeah, it's just
montage of like how it's dyed, how it's made. And
mm-hmm,
I thought, but it never really came up, and I was looking for it. I thought
mm-hmm.
that they were also sewing in little pockets for the knives.
I think they were, because it looked like
But
all.
then we don't see it. We just see the girls putting it in their sleeves.
Yeah, but then you have to consider too that when June and Moira are just dispensing the knives to the handmaids at the wedding, it's like endless. It's kind of like Mary Poppins. Like it's like where's all this coming from? So it had to have been
True.
like shoved all the way up the arm on the inside. That way you can't make out
Yeah.
of whatever. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves at that point.
True.
Uh,
Yeah.
so handmaids are making their way to the wedding, where literally all of Gilead has been invited. The handmaids sit in the back as per their position, and you see everyone entering the church, commanders, the wives. You see Nick walking with Rose. Of course, you see a lot of shots going back and forth between June eyeing everyone and
Yeah, the
specifically
rage.
Nick. The rage. And then Nick will make his way to the front of the church, where he gives the first reading after Commander Wharton and Serena have made their grand entrance, right? What did you think of Serena's dress? Just out of sheer curiosity.
I liked the subtlety in that it was a teeny tiny couple drops of blue or blue green in there. It was a very cool toned white. So it wasn't pure white. So it was definitely a way to show that, for at least for Gilead, like, hey, I'm getting back into the role as a wife.
Yeah.
To me, that's what I got from it.
Yeah. I think the fanfare music of like royalty walking in, I was like, okay, can we just like, no. This is not like the queen entering. Hey, Lord Jesus, help us all. Well, anyway, going back, while Nick is giving his first reading, the handmaids are going to distribute the knives to one another. And at one point, it was kind of cool. It was like in unison, where like the right hand takes the knife and the left hand passes it onward, and it's just like kind of the swift movement. It's almost like orchestrated. It was kind of cool. But then, of course, right, you have one with butterfingers, and the knife drops.
It'd be me.
It causes noise and it catches the attention of a guardian who comes over, but luckily that knife was hidden underneath the shoe or dress of the handmaid. So we don't really get to see the rest of the ceremony, thank God, because the reception is where most of this story will be told. And surprisingly, there's like a DJ at the wedding. I was a little.
That was weird.
Wait, no, yeah. Oh, it's not. I'm sorry. Okay, there was no DJ. I thought there was a DJ. I was freaking out looking at my notes here. But all the handmaids are invited to this reception. They do sit far away from everyone else. And the handmaids greet each other. They're like still distributing the weapons because of that interruption at the church. And, dancing, happy couples, blah, blah, blah. Nick sits next to his wife, nurses a whiskey, which I don't blame him. But yeah, he looks miserable. He looks quite miserable. So this whole thing, obviously, this whole operation, in order for it to work, is that the handmaids, or at least June and Serena, June and Moira need to avoid Serena. And Serena will like attempt to speak to Lawrence. Like, why are you so nervous? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm not nervous. And she's like, well, I'm just here to tell you I'm committed to my reforms. And, even though I'm married, it changes nothing. And she has no desire to be like a regular wife or what have you. But she excuses herself to go speak to her, quote, most important guests, who happen to be the handmaids. Amber, tell us what that conversation looked like with Serena to handmaids.
So she gave this little speech to the women, the handmaids, that like, oh, I had some difficulties like with my handmaid. The audacity. But I love that June.
Like she knew.
Like, the fuck. the sheer audacity. Also, I mean, don't you think that those women know? I mean,
yeah. I mean, June is
I feel like,
legend at this point.
yeah, like, lady, we know. But anyway, she basically glazes over it. Like, hey,
Yeah.
I had some difficulties. The things that you do, I appreciate you.
Yeah.
And like,
She's a good friend of mine now.
yeah, like,
What?
June's face. It was so funny. Just her just be like, the fuck?
Delulu doesn't even begin to describe Serena's state of mind at this point.
Yeah, and then she does. I think does she mention the like them retiring to the Red Center? I think she does.
She spoke on the fertility center and how she wants to make changes for the handmaids. That she's making it her priority or
Yeah,
taking a real interest in making this into something that the handmaids will benefit from, right? She's
yeah.
like, you need to be respected as the human beings that you are and what have you. But yeah, June
Yeah,
is
like don't worry.
not.
Even though I treated you like shit before, I changed. I'm gonna treat you better now. It was, God, it was terrible. But she wanted a group photo with them, and
Yeah.
instantly they're kind of like, get June out, because she wanted them unveiled for this
Yes.
photo. So there was a little bit of panic.
Yeah.
But I think
thank goodness Rita came in. Yeah, thank goodness Rita like stepped in and she's like, excuse me, it's time for cake. And it's like, cake. Yes, let's see
do
this
you want
death
to
cake.
say now what the plan was with the cake and everything?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, that substance that was given to Rita in the last episode, and the reason why she took on making the cake, I think, especially now, because she said no, she doesn't want to help with Mayday until she had the conversation with Nick, and Nick changed his mind and changed his attitude, and he's not going to help her and her family anymore. And she realizes she's trapped, so she's like, "Cool, I'll help out Mayday then." And she is able to make this cake, and it has we don't really do they see I don't think they specifically say what it was, but she puts this powder in the cake, and it's going to take about an hour, 2 hours for it to take effect. But all who eat the cake are going to fall asleep, and when they fall asleep, that's when the knives that were passed out to the handmaids, all the appointed handmaids, are going to be able to axe off their commanders. And I'm assuming the wives, but that's up to them.
Yes.
I feel like the wives would be kind of up to them. But I feel like that's up to the individual handmaid and how the wife treated her. But
yeah.
Because I mean, we know there are some of the wives that, well, we've seen in the past where some of the wives don't fully agree with it. So
yeah,
they're like, hey, this must be done, but I'm going to be treating you as kindly as I can. It's rare, but we've seen it. So who knows? But we know like people like Naomi are going to be out.
I love how Lawrence was all like, "Oh no, I'm good." Please help yourself. And she's like, "Oh no, I've had enough." He's like, "No, eat it.
Yeah, look at me like a bird. Go on, babe." Like he was just getting her, and she was just like, "Oh, okay." So she like went at it, and then also it was a blink and you miss it moment. But they're at the same table, and he sees Nick eating his cake.
Oh my god, you're right.
Yeah, it's like the first thing. It's like because honestly, the first person that we do see eating is Rose and Nick, and also like it's a blink and you miss it. But Lawrence is after this shows Nick and Rose eating the cake and like taking a bite. It cuts to Lawrence, and he is kind of like like a little bit of a hard blink, kind of. Like I'm trying not to have a reaction, but I had a little bit of a reaction in my brain.
Right.
And part of me is thinking that he is like, oh, he wasn't in on it. Oh, he's not in on it. And that's kind of where it clicks for Lawrence.
He done fucked up.
Yep. Because he knows June is there. So he's like, if June didn't warn Nick, he is screwed.
Well, Lawrence, when he did visit Mayday headquarters and spoke with June, he's like, he goes, I always thought you were a fool for believing in him or trusting him or something along those lines. And so
but I think it was more of a, he's screwed, and he's like, I think he's like, okay, she's done. He's officially done.
But Nick doesn't have an assigned handmaid. So unless
what do you think the girls at the rec center were going to do? I assumed they were going to go to the non-appointed houses.
Okay, I hadn't considered that. I hadn't fully.
That was my assumption.
Through. Well, I thought unless June was going to once again deal with Nick. I mean, she first had to deal with Commander Bell for Janine, right? Because she wasn't going to leave Janine behind again, like she did in Chicago and then at Jezebel's, obviously. But I don't know. That remains to be seen. Let's not get ahead of ourselves just quite yet. So, pardon me. So, eventually, the handmaids are going to leave, right? They slip their uneaten cakes underneath their pews. They're about to exit, but then Aunt Lydia, God damn it, Aunt Lydia arrives, and June has to avoid being discovered. However, Lydia somehow recognizes June, or thinks she recognizes June, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's based on her walk or her silhouette or whatever, but she calls her by name, follows the handmaids, and thinks that she has found June, and it's not. It's handmaid just says blessed be or something to Lydia, but Lawrence intercepts, right, to distract Lydia so June can go about her business, and he's pretty pissed that she missed her meetings in DC that he had set up. And when she says, I think June Osborne is here, he's like, lady, you're crazy. June is in Alaska. Mm-hmm. And she's like, Alaska? Why the hell? But Aunt Phoebe, thank God for her, comes to the rescue, defends Lydia, says she's tired. She came across as, a very compassionate individual and tells...
I think it was just a smidge too pushy, though. It tipped off Lydia even more.
Maybe. But she is told to go have a nice big steak, a glass of red wine, and for dessert, cake. I love the delivery. It was so cute.
I really love that actress. I love her. She's in every single season of The Good Place. I love her.
Mm-hmm. Amber, let's talk about the newlyweds, right? Commander Wharton and Serena arrive at their new Boston home. And Serena's about to get a rude awakening.
Oh, yeah, because, and we kind of got tipped off to it because one of the Guardians says that the present from Commander Bell is waiting for you. Where do you want it? And he says, in the parlor, and he tried to do the whole picking her up and carrying her through the threshold like you do with newlyweds. And, she's just giggly and loving it. And they're like, oh, what a beautiful home. This will be perfect. Oh, my gosh. And as he takes off her coat, she, completely turns around and sees the gift that is waiting in the parlor. Yep. And that gift is a handmaid.
Ugh. We all knew Gabriel Wharton was too good to be true, right? I was sus from the jump. Right. Yeah. And if y'all don't believe me, you can go back and watch our other pods when we were first introduced to Gabriel Wharton. I was like, I don't know about this guy. I love the actor. But I was like, no, don't trust him. Don't like him.
Yeah. And definitely it's exactly what happened. He starts saying that, oh, this will be amazing. And she has this moment of, but I'm fertile. Mm-hmm. And that's also another thing that kind of cements it. It was never about fertility, Serena, you idiot. It's never been about fertility. It's never been about babies. It was always about control and subjugation. Yep. It was never about babies. And it's the fact that, because he's a commander, he's one of the highest commanders, he can do whatever he wants. And if he wants a big family, he's going to get it.
Handmade.
And I Serena, you idiot. It was never about the babies. I'm so glad it finally was shoved in her face. It was never about babies.
Yep. That's just,
Very
the pretty thing that they tell you to get you to fall in line, right? Because people were desperate, it seems, for the time period, right? The birth rates were declining, and how do we reverse that? Oh, let's make more babies. Let's enslave women, as you do.
Well, like,
But
that
yeah,
was just
so
their excuse for making the Handmaids, was because of the babies. Like, that was in the declining infant mortality rate, increasing infant mortality rate. That was the reason that they excused themselves for creating the entire system for Handmaids and treating these women so horribly. And the entire procedure, it was for the babies. Well, no, it wasn't. It was just a way for you to control people.
Yeah. Well, Serena, surprisingly, and I say this genuinely, refuses to be in the same household with a handmaid. And she actually addresses this handmaid by name. And her name's Christina. She tells her, "You are not a vessel. You're a human being. And I want you to leave and run and don't ever come back." And she's sticking to her guns. Like, she's not being inauthentic.
A bit of a pushover about it. She's not being lenient.
Actually,
she's definitely
she actually is wanting to stick to her new goals of treating these women better, it seems.
Yeah. Not perfectly, but better.
Yeah. Yeah. So she, I guess in a way, she's not the same person that she was when she first married Fred. And basically tells Wharton, "You're just like the rest of them." And it's as if, like, everything that June had previously told Serena about Wharton is coming into fruition, right?
Yeah.
He love bombed her with, the gift of the library, false promises, and he's like, I entertained your liberal ideas and attitudes, and you deceived me. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry, you did what? And you have the audacity to say she deceived you?
Do you want to know how he rationalizes it in his mind?
Please tell us.
To me, this is how he rationalizes it, that she was willing to take a step back from, again, her liberal standpoint, to accept the proposal, accept all of these things. And he kind of started to notice that she's like, oh yeah, she's kind of allowing me to do these things. And so eventually so once we're married and I start going back to doing my own thing, as it should be to him, he thinks that this is how it should be, that she's going to fall in line again, because she always did. She always fell back in line. So to him, her finally standing her ground and not falling in line and being the perfect Gilead wife that he wanted, that is his deceiving comment that he means. Because he thinks because she has been giving that message that she was going to just roll over again. So that's how he justifies the word deceived. Because he believed that she was going to roll over.
We just talked a lot, or did pods, about the final season of Netflix You. You want to talk about gaslighting? This guy learned a thing or two from Joel Goldberg. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, there's no other explanation, honestly. So there's a big blowout between Serena and Wharton. Wharton, like, yells at her and says, "Enough!" And it's like, oh shit. Here's a second outburst that we see. But cue baby Noah.
Mr. Kitten wants to leave.
Yeah. Cue baby Noah, who cries, and it's like a wake-up call for Serena. She has to think about that of her child. She wants to leave. Wharton is like blocking her exit with that guardian inside the house. And she's like, well, what are you gonna, what are you gonna do? Like, because Wharton says something along the lines of like, this is my house and you are under my, and he stops and she's like, what? Say it, like your rule. She's like, you think that if I speak out, basically you're gonna cut off my finger or take a belt to me. She's like, I've lived through all of that. I've survived those horrors, and and I'll do it again. And he says to her, I'm not something to survive. I'm a good man and a good husband. And I absolutely loved Serena's reply to this. She's like, how could you? You're a commander. And I'm like, but you fucking married him regardless. Like, you fucking knew he was the commander, basically. He's one of the high commanders. Like, Jesus, you dumb ass.
That's what June and everyone has been saying. Serena, you idiot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But hey, I mean, it seems that finally something's getting clear to her, getting through. But again, who knows? I still don't think she's going to go fully 100%. Like, she ain't going to be a Mayday. But
no, I agree. But the surprising turn of events is that he allows her to leave the house with baby Noah, no other like supplies, right? Just what they're wearing and go.
Yeah.
I was actually genuinely afraid that she was going to get out into the driveway and then she was going to be like shot or something, or like tackled.
Oh, I thought the same.
Right? Like, I was like, oh God, we're going to see something terrible happen. Not so much to Serena, but like to the baby. Right. And I'm like, oh God, like this can't be happening. But it seems that she just keeps on running to where? Don't know. I can't presume New Bethlehem because they're in Boston. I don't know how she's going to get there on foot.
I have no idea where she's going, but
right, like no idea whatsoever. I don't, unless she runs to maybe Lawrence's house, perhaps, because
maybe. But isn't that also in New Bethlehem?
Well, no, he also has his house in Boston.
Oh, true. So, you're right. Forgot.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be the only other place I feel like she could go to. But then I was trying to recall if she actually consumed any of the cake, right? And it's like,
well,
is she
outright says that she hasn't been able to eat some yet, and yet.
But was that the
she
food?
Makes a comment.
Food or
like,
cake?
I hope you guys enjoy everything. I haven't been able to have any yet.
But was it food or cake?
She never specified. But if she hasn't, I can kind of assume. If you don't have time to eat dinner, you're not going to have time to eat the cake.
Which I will attest to, because when I got married, we didn't get a chance to eat any of our food. We were told the food was great. We were told that the mac and cheese bar was a huge hit. Cool. Never got to eat it. I think we had a little bit of the cake.
A lot of people actually, like, that's very common for weddings.
Yeah.
That's very, very, very common for weddings from what I've seen, to the point where my friend specifically said for her second wedding, she's like, I am not having a wedding reception unless I have time to sit there and eat my dang meal.
Yes.
So, like, she made that, like, a specific request. She's like, I am not going to do, so she's like, she even, like, gave a little announcement, like, hey, I ain't going to do nothing right now. I'm not going to be introduced, like, I'm not going to be thanking you for showing up. I'm not going to be taking your happy wishes or anything like that. I'm going to sit and eat my food. So you guys sit and eat your food.
That's funny. That's funny. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I was a little unclear about whether or not Serena partook in.
And that also means that I don't think Warden ate it. So I think he's the one who made the call later.
So, okay. Getting ahead of ourselves real quick. I wanted to ask your thought about whether Christina, the handmaid, was briefed on the plan with the rest of the handmaids.
For sure. I feel like she for sure was.
Okay.
Because we hear Commander Bell, saying that his dad's handmaid is like the best handmaid because she's twins every time. And then one of the things that Warden says to Serena about Christina is that she's one of the best handmaids, the most fertile, because that she always has, and she usually has twins and stuff like that. Which,
Mm-hmm.
side note, I saw somebody do like the calculation thing, because if Gilead's been around for like 6-7 years at this point, and she always has twins, like that's a lot of babies that they've taken from this woman.
Yep.
But
Yep. It's horrible.
Anyway,
Yeah.
we know Gilead's horrible, but
Yeah.
I definitely think she was briefed by it, because I mean she's still a handmaid, and I haven't gone back to look to see if she's in the background of any of the handmaid scenes.
So I thought that maybe she was one at the reception that faced June, and June's like Godspeed, like, and then the handmaid nods. I thought maybe that was her, but then like looking back, I don't think it is. And the reason why I don't think necessarily that this handmaid was briefed is because I think Belle is in DC, like Belle Senior, and he's the one who sent the handmaid to Wharton as a gift. My thought is that this handmaid came from DC and has not been in Boston for long, and therefore has not been briefed on the plan. That's just my thought, but who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? Okay, let's keep going.
Either way, we know they're not falling asleep, or I can assume that they're not falling asleep, because also that would suck for Serena if she's just walking with her baby and then just passes out on the street.
Well, she's gone through worse. She's been pushed out of a moving train. So
valid.
Let's keep it going. We're almost done, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us once again. If you haven't done so already, give us a subscription, follow. Just click that button down below, and give us a like as well if you've enjoyed this podcast thus far. Let's talk about June. Once again, June is keeping a promise, right? The handmaids have been briefed. They've been dispersed. They are either returning to the Red Center or to their commanders, right? And June, is going to go to the home of Commander Bell. Bell, who we see sleeping on the couch. He is interrupted by a phone call and tells whoever is on the phone to repeat yourself. And he's like, what? And then you hear June move in the background. He turns around and sees her. But we don't officially find out who was on the other line. But June is there. That's all that matters. So Belle recognizes her, quips that it's nice to meet her. And there's really not a whole lot of interaction other than the fact that like June walks down, faces him, and like swift movement stabs him in the eye. And you see him succumb to his injury, which I was a little disappointed. I'll be honest, because I actually really wanted June to brief Janine and let Janine be the one to take him out. You know, obviously he did not take her eye. Her eye has been long gone, right? But
yes,
I wanted her to have like closure. I wanted her to have like a moment where she could.
I would have loved that moment for her, but I don't think that Janine has physical violence rage in her.
Yes, I agree. I think she's even though like
I would have loved it for her. Yes, I support women's rights and wrongs, but I cannot imagine Janine would feel morally okay killing somebody, even somebody as terrible as that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I just don't. She's too. To me, she's gentle, even when she's enraged, even when she's furious.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see her doing that unless she has to in a survival situation. Which, granted, yes, everything in Gilead is a survival situation. But I would have loved for June to give her the choice.
Yes.
And for her to be like, you can do it. Because I feel like giving her the control of his life or death would have been enough for me.
Oh, I agree. I just thought it was a big waste of time for like, after June stabbed him, you watch him die. Obviously, he's dead. She goes and sits down, drinks his whiskey, and I'm like, girl, what are you doing? Get going. Like, there is a plan. You don't think someone's gonna show up like just to check in on him, especially if it was
Guardians didn't eat. Yeah, a lot of the Guardians were pulled, but they didn't eat the cake.
Exactly. Thank you. I was just like, what? That infuriated me. But Janine comes down,
Really quick
And
before we leave that scene, though, I did think it was really cool cinematic but that when she's standing there before stepping down to see him, the lamp, the ceiling lamp, made her look like she had a halo.
oh, I hadn't noticed that actually. Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it was kind
Very
of like
cool.
I'm here to do a divine rite,
Oh
an
gosh, that's
exodus,
funny.
you might say.
Ah, yes, 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 that's true. Well, like I said, Janine enters the room. She sees Belle dead, and June is there waiting, and she's clearly relieved that June took care of that and finally made good on her promise. She's not leaving Janine behind ever again. And I think the big climactic moment in this episode, and truly the catalyst moment in this episode, is when Aunt Lydia figures out everything that's going on and comes to terms with perhaps the fact that she's been on the wrong side of history, right?
Yeah.
She's still determined that something's off. She notices that there's cake on the floor where the handmaids were sitting. She makes it back to the Red Center and notices that there are guards and aunts who have passed out. And then she runs into
Mm-hmm.
Phoebe, right? And she's not falling for Phoebe's BS. She wants to see the girls, right? And Phoebe, kind of stalls. She, in a way, stalls, but then she pulls out a knife from behind her back. And I'm like, this bitch is baller. Like, she was ready to take out Lydia had she not
I need ride or
been
die for Aunt
interrupted.
Phoebe right now.
Dude, yes. Like, had she not been interrupted by that young guardian who greeted Lydia, I mean, she was going to take out Lydia without hesitation, which I think is
Yeah.
just so bad ass, right? But
Mm-hmm.
she does everything that she can to stall by unlocking the doors to where the handmaids are, as to alert them, obviously, right? They're found in bed, and Lydia will pull back the sheets on one to reveal that they're fully dressed, shoes on, and it's like, oh shit, like something's off. So you'll see all the handmaids on their knees, Moira included, I should
Mm-hmm.
add. And Lydia's like preaching about punishing the wicked. And in this case, it's referring to Phoebe, right? And
Yeah.
that punishment is death. But before the guardian can pull the trigger, Moira stands up and tells Lydia to get the fuck away from her. And Lydia does not remember Moira. And I'm like, okay, I have to pause here. How many minority women were taken in as handmaids? And how do you not remember their names?
Because she only cares about Janine and June. And June, she doesn't even care for as much as Janine. It's honestly,
It's just, ah,
she didn't care because there's
no,
hundreds of handmaids.
I get
Oh,
it, but
not
it's like,
hundreds, but there's definitely quite a lot of handmaids. And she doesn't give two shits about any of them except Janine.
yeah, yeah.
And
Well,
I feel like that was just like another way to show that she doesn't care about them. Like we've been, like a lot of us have been hoping, and I know that she does obviously help out and things like that in Testaments. I know that, whatever. But so many people are just constantly like, okay, is this going to be the thing that's going to get Lydia to switch sides? Okay, is this going to be the thing? Because seeing Janine and Jezebel, do you think that would have been the catalyst? Okay, it wasn't. Okay, maybe
yeah,
Jezebel's being taken down. She thinks Janine's dead.
yeah,
That doesn't do it. Like you
no,
think, and seeing Janine being abused, that doesn't do it.
yeah,
So like it's another way to be like, this is her offer, her way out. And again, she is still like, I don't know who you are. So it's just
yeah.
showing that it's not going to be as easy to turn Lydia as everybody is assuming it's going to be.
Well, but Lydia's determined that this one handmaid that she doesn't recognize must be working with June Osborne, whom she's still determined is in Boston, and she's like, "Where is she? Where is she?" And then up pops June. "I'm right here, Lydia." Like, "Oh shit!" Like, "Oh my god!" Like, "You're right there." And I'm not gonna lie, this whole little monologue that June delivers, just stop talking. Just get to the fucking point. Like, get to the fucking point. What is it that June tells Lydia that still doesn't make her change her mind?
This that she tries to kind of appeal to Lydia's very religious nature and be that God doesn't want women to be treated this way.
Mm-hmm.
God wouldn't want this. Like, or
Mm-hmm.
any decent God would not want human beings to be treated this way.
Yeah.
Like, we have been raped, we have been abused. Like, when were you going to see that we are human and God doesn't want you to treat us this way? And it still isn't clicking until
Yeah.
her special girl.
Yeah. Yeah. June
And
basically says to Lydia, like, "Hey, you trained us to be like this. Like, you
yeah,
trained us to rise up," and and tells her straight truths, like the horrors that Lydia inflicted upon them, that rape is rape. Handmaids are not fallen women. Uh, to use the language of the Bible to hammer home her point, is there a God that would empower a woman like you to stand up for us, to arc toward the light, and to finally declare enough?
yeah.
Still not a convincing argument until, like you said, Janine steps forward. And
Because
she,
she doesn't give a shit about any of them. She
I
only
know.
cares about Janine.
Yeah.
If
Well,
Janine wasn't there, this would have gone completely differently.
yeah. Well, Janine will tell Lydia, "He hurt me, Aunt Lydia. They hurt us. They raped us. You gave us to them." And I'm like, where was this like 20 minutes ago? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, where was this?
It didn't need. It was a very important scene, I understand, but it didn't need to be
Yeah.
this long.
Yeah. Lydia does end up saying that she only meant to save the girls. And she says, Janine says to her, "If you want to save us, let us go."
Yeah.
And with that last plea, Lydia goes over to the Guardian, who still has the pointed gun, lowers it. Janine hugs her, and the rest of the handmaids take that as cue to leave. And June nods to Lydia, like, respect, walks away, and Lydia's all like, "Oh God, help me." She says it over and over again. Where did that Guardian end up going? Who is he
That's
going to
my
get to the
question.
hotel? Like, like he's not in favor, I believe, with releasing these women. He's got to go tell someone.
He also seems pretty young, so
Yes.
we don't know. Maybe he's actually like, oh, damn, these women are right. Like, I don't know, but highly doubt it. Who knows?
Highly doubt it, for sure.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, then we see like this shot, a sequence of shots of handmaids across our city are arming themselves with the knives to kill their abusive commanders. And the handmaids of the Red Center are now free to finish the job. And then you hear this voiceover, "The dress became our uniform and we became an army," says June. And you can only imagine that in the next 2 episodes, the penultimate and the series finale, that bombs will go off and Gilead will have quite the reckoning that they with the women that they have wronged. And I will say that the next episode is entitled Execution. Now,
yeah, and we see a clip of that looks like a hanging.
I did not see a clip.
Oh, it wasn't like, it was like a tiny little shot. It's kind of like in the overall preview kind of thing, like
okay.
Season.
So
it's in that whole thing. It shows that there's like a hanging execution is what it looks like.
Okay, because that was
we've been waiting for that, and
yeah, that was going to be my next question to you: is, are we talking execution as a whole? Are we talking like specific people? Are we talking about execution of a plan? You know what I mean? Like, because there's double meanings
I feel like
with
it is
these
that double
titles.
entendre. I feel like they are going
Mhm.
to make it that way. They're going to talk about an execution, but it's
Mhm.
also going to be executing the plan to finally get rid of Gilead. And I am worried though, because in that image of the gallows and stuff like that, there were handmaids there.
Mm.
So I do worry.
Yeah. I was worried that Moira, when she spoke up against Aunt Lydia, I was worried she was going to get killed right then and there. And I'm like,
Oh,
no,
of course.
like, no.
Yeah.
Like,
So
it's bad
I don't
enough
know.
you don't remember. It's like, it's bad enough you don't remember who she is, and now you're going to fucking kill her. Like, come on.
I have a lot of problems with Lydia, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm very, very excited, but we still have two episodes, and a lot can happen in these 2 episodes.
Yep.
A lot can happen. Because, like we mentioned earlier, the Guardians didn't have that cake. And also, so we know that because they briefly mentioned it, that Serena is going to be pulling all of the Guardians away from the border for this, to hide security for it. Okay, cool. But then the base of your operation is still surrounded by a lot more Guardians then. So we're not having the cake. So that's a little bit more risky. And that's great. Mayday can infiltrate the borders now, but how far inward are they going to get, and how are the handmaids going to be able to get out, considering there's a lot more guardians there? Like, I don't know. I have questions. I am worried for everybody. I just want Janine to live a good life. That's all I care about. Honestly,
I'm concerned.
People, I just care about Janine.
I'm concerned she will end up being collateral damage.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But let me live in my delusional world.
I get it. Okay.
Because honestly, just fuck all you people, unless, but just keep Janine. But
do we think that Nick makes it out alive? Do we think Commander Lawrence makes it out alive?
Well, I think because Lawrence didn't eat the cake, he seemed in on the plan.
But there are commanders who want him dead. Still.
True, but
and those commanders are still alive.
If he's using this as a way for him to get out too?
I don't think he's going to get out personally, and I don't know that
and
based
also,
on like the testaments or anything. But
I sort of took it as all of the ones who wanted him dead are the ones on the hit list. It's kind of how I took it. So
I can see that.
That's how I at least took it. So if all goes to plan, which things hardly ever do.
Yeah.
But if all goes to plan, then the ones who wanted him dead are not going to be involved anymore. They're going to be dead. So he would give him a route to take more control again. But I also feel like that would put him under suspicion from any surviving commanders or whoever they place in command afterwards. I'm sorry if anybody can hear those horns. I live above a pub. Sorry, people.
Smoke and mirrors. We're good.
But that's at least my thought.
Yeah, we will just have to wait and see. We are 2 episodes away from the series finale of The Handmaid's Tale. Amber and I will be back after the premiere of episode 10 to come back and discuss the penultimate and the series finale. So we hope you can join us for that conclusion pod, if you will. But please be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. That way you know the next time we will go live. Amber, before we head out of here, you have a wonderful YouTube channel. Talk to us about that.
Thank you. If anybody is interested in Harry Potter or just wands and wand lore in general, my channel is Olive Amber's Wands, spelled like Ollivander, but with my name included, and to change the name Ollivander to Olive Amber's. And my channel is all about wands and wand lore. So I go into the cultural, symbolic, and historical meaning of the woods and the magical beasts that the cores are from. And I define how that summarizes the wand's character itself and the character of the person who owns it, and all of that meaning. And that's definitely what I do. So I have been recently trying to do videos talking about the new Epic Universe wands because they are not character based, but we do have woods and some cores for them. So I'm very excited to be talking about those because they are beautiful. But if you're interested in Harry Potter, wands, wand lore, or just want to hear me info dump about some insane research details that I do, you can check out my channel. And I am currently at 340 subscribers, I believe, which I hope to maybe in the next year or so I can get up to 400. But yes, I'm at 340 right now. And
Woo!
I would love to continue increasing as more videos come out.
Absolutely. So show Amber some love. Go follow her on her YouTube channel. You can find the link in the description box down below, along with her Instagram handle, which is at oliveambers.wands. Got to get your handle too for TikTok as well. She does TikTok. I don't do the TikToky. That's just way after my time. So, but yes, please go show support and love to Amber and check out her channel, check out her videos, and show her some love. Amber, thank you so much for joining me in today's rather long pod discussing The Handmaid's Tale, but I'm glad we got to cover it all, and I'm looking forward to wrapping up this series with you in just a couple of weeks. So, so for Amber, I'm Brittany. Thank you all for joining us today. We will see you next time, and under his fucking eye.
Under his fucking eye.